Today we're going to be going over the different types of markets, benefits, challenges, and Jennifer's going to lead us through that. We will also be talking about planning for growth, understanding a business model versus a product, defining your market, which is more like your target market, your target customers, and then we'll also be working on the lean business model canvas. This will help you get a better understanding of your farm business and how you plan to make money. So with this, I'll hand it over to Jennifer.
Well, thanks for having me, everybody. I'm glad to be here. My name is Jennifer. That's my family. My farm is Humble Pie Farm. We grow, like Laura said, we grow mostly specialty cut flowers, some vegetables. We also do starter plants in spring that we sell at a couple of the co-op groceries here in the Twin Cities. I'm glad to be here because I think, like, in my Moses beginning farmer work and then in my farm with my farm business, this is our 6th year. So I started farming in 2009, working for a larger farm, and then my husband and I started our farm business in 2013. So this will be our 6th year in production. I also have a teaching degree, and so I did that some as well. I just really think that marketing is like you have to know how to farm, right? You have to know how to grow a good product for certain. But marketing is the second most important thing that you do, because you can grow the most beautiful product, and if you don't know where you're going to sell it, what's the point? So I think it's very admirable that you're like taking this class and you're really like setting yourself up for success in trying to get a jump on these things. Because farming is hard and farm business is hard, and you're marketing in this system that doesn't necessarily support small farmers. And not to be negative, because I'm just saying, like, that's how it is. But it's really fun too, because, as you wouldn't be here if you didn't enjoy farming. It's also really fun to be creative and be able to kind of like be in control of your own thing and be able to decide what's going to happen and find these new markets and find these new things. So the first thing that I guess I would say, I'm going to go through like some of the markets that we've had experience with and give the benefits and the challenges of those. But I have just a couple of big things that I wanted to mention. Yes?
Are you going to talk about how you started?
How we started? Mm-hmm. I can. Sure. Like the incubator farm?
Yeah.
So I know Zoe a little bit because we've been in each other's circles. Well, we were in Farm Beginnings in 2010, long ago, through Reliance Stewardship Project together. So my husband worked for Gardens of Eden, which was a larger vegetable farm that the Wedge Co-op owned and then sold, although they still haven't sold most of it. My husband worked there for 10 years. We lived there, and we were an incubator farm there. So we rented land, we rented machinery. So we had a really great setup, and I wish that everybody could have that experience, because having that stuff accessible and not, MFA is also a wonderful opportunity to be able to farm at Big River Farm. And actually, Molly Schaus, we worked with her for quite a few years at Gardens of Eden, and she's a wonderful farmer. So we rented land, we rented machinery. In 2015, we found out that the Wedge was going to sell. They told us that in April. So we lived there. It was my husband's salary and a farm business. So we kind of had to scramble, like, what are we going to do? We were also like in the thick of, greenhouse work and getting ready for the season. And so we were able to qualify for a farm service agency loan through the USDA. So if you have questions about that, I'm happy to share whatever I know. It can be a tricky process, but also really good interest rate. And anyway, so we found a place in western Wisconsin, and we bought a 16-acre farm. And that's had its own challenges. Sometimes I say, I miss renting land, which, I know that has its own things, but when you're managing your own land, it's got a whole new bag of stuff going on. Anyway, so really grateful to have had that experience because, as you know, it can be really hard and capital intensive to get started farming if you don't come from family or whatever. Okay, so going into these kind of tenets of marketing, establish your brand and like know what. So this is our logo, and we put this on everything. Like I put it on everything that we put out there. It started out as something that I ordered on Vistaprint. Vistaprint has great deals. I know they're printed in the Netherlands. I'm sorry. But I just printed this stamp on Vistaprint. It was just like this circular stamp, and I put that on all of our sleeves that we put on our flowers, and that was how we started getting our name out there and doing that. And then I have a good friend, because getting a logo made is expensive, so it's a whole other thing. But I have a good friend who's a good artist, and she's a graphic designer, so she made that logo for us. And that was her donation to our farm. It was very sweet. So now I've got that on. I just put it on everything because it's our brand. And be creative, like the Vistaprint thing. Like it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. Just and if you need more ideas, I'm happy to share on that. Relationships really matter. So we're working in this bigger system, right? That's not necessarily supportive. Like big food is not really about relationships, but small food is very much about relationships, and small business is very much about relationships. And I'm here because I know Laura, and we worked with Molly, and we have good relationships with them, and Fenley was at New Farmer U, and so these relationships, they matter, and we can help each other, and our buyers can help us, and our market managers can help us. Like we're all going for the same thing, and we all do better when we all do better. That's a stone quote, but I really love it. So anyway, relationships matter. Your story sells. So I think that's the thing about small business is that every one of us has a good story and has an important story to tell. And that's what's going to sell your product. Just this photo of us, I think this is on like our signs in the co-op and stuff, and it tells our story, and that's what people want. Like you can get cheap flowers, you can get cheap food anywhere, right? You can even get cheap organic food anywhere. But what I think can set us apart, certainly like finding a place in the market where we have a niche, but also the story. Be consistent, be consistent with your product, be consistent with your marketing and your branding. I think it's really easy, and I'm speaking from having done this, like when you're first starting your farm business, you want to like say yes to everybody. When you're first starting your business, you want to say yes to everybody and be able to do everything, and it doesn't help you be consistent, and it really is hard on you. Speaking from experience, like you'll get really tired really fast. So so like knowing your limits and knowing what you want, where you want to focus your energy, I guess. And going through these like the business model canvas and some of these things, they'll really help you in the long run. And then take pictures. I have a friend who was like Bossy Acres. I don't know. They were like a short-lived farm, but they were both publicists or like in advertising, and they were so good at selling their farm, even though they were, pretty short-lived in what they actually did. Anyway, one of them said to me once, if it's not On social media, it didn't happen. And so, you know, it's kind of like sad, and you don't really want to think that. But I do think that social, like Instagram for our flowers has been a really good like selling space, and getting our story out there. So being able to take pictures and just share what you're doing, however you decide to do that, I think is good. So this is when we went to the farmer's market our first year. We went to the little farmer's market in Northfield. And these are images that I shared on social media. That's my son with the sunflower. Those are our flowers, all of that. So the benefits of farmers marketing, and I think, you know, you probably have a pretty good idea of this. You get a direct relationship with the consumer. It's a really good place to start out. For us, we developed a lot of relationships. We advertised. We built those relationships, and then we moved on to some other markets. You have control of your sale and your product, and I love that, like being able to talk to people about your product and control. We have mostly retail markets now, and I have to really have a good relationship with my buyers because I'm giving them my product to sell, and they have to take care of it. You know, and if those flowers sit there and the water doesn't get changed and the sleeves get all wrinkly, they're just going to look bad, and nobody's going to buy them, and Humble Pie Farm is going to look bad. So having that control is really nice. And then you get the direct sale prices, and I think that's a good thing. Challenges of farmers marketing, it is a lot of work and time. It's, you know, you got to get ready, and then you got to be at the market. It can be unreliable based on the weather, you know, or based on the holiday of the summer or whatever. Generally, my experience, especially with flowers, and I think it depends, like the Mill City Market, those prices are pretty good. And I think that's based on that kind of the city is, you know, a little bit more, like they can charge a little bit more. I kind of struggle with this because I want everybody to have accessible food, but farmers need to make a living. Otherwise, nobody's going to be farming. And so how do we find that balance between cheap prices at the farmers market and, or, you know, good, like, and pricing high enough at the farmers market that farmers can actually make a living? I don't have an answer for that, but part of the reason why we don't go to the farmers market anymore is because we couldn't compete with the cheap flowers that were being sold there. And maybe that was just our market, but I have seen that other places in Minnesota too, so I'm not sure. And then unreliable environment, you know, and you're outside, so there's that. Oops, I have a clicker. And feel free to stop me at any time to answer questions. Okay, yeah. So CSA, so is this right? Yeah.
And you go back, you said part of the reason you don't go back, you don't go to the farmers market because you cannot compete with cheap prices.
Yeah.
Is any way you set, how you set a price from a market, you talk to other people
Yeah.
so that you can come to a certain price instead of one outselling the other? Very scary.
I know. And I used to manage a farmer's market, and I went to a farm. I've done a lot of farmer's marketing and been in different places in it. And some farmer's markets, most farmer's markets in Minnesota don't set prices. Like the manager says, this has to be your price minimum for this. But I do think within the market and within the farmers at the market, you kind of have to try to do that. Like look at what each other are charging and then try to bring it up instead of undercutting it. Because it just doesn't do, I mean, I went to the Birchwood, we had like a little Valentine pop-up with these succulents that we had on Sunday, and I had like my farmer pricing mentality. And I had these little tiny succulents, and they were adorable, and I was going to charge $5 for them. And I had this potter next to me with these super fancy ceramic pots, and she was like, I think you need to charge $15 for them. And I was like, $15? Who's going to pay that for them? Anyway, I ended up charging 12, and people bought them. They totally bought them, and it was such a good lesson to me. Like, you can charge for what you're growing and what you're doing has value. And I think that's an uncomfortable point for a lot of farmers, because it's like, I mean, I like farming. I like being outside. I like the flowers are pretty. I like doing the design work. Like the pricing part, I don't want to deal with that. My husband is better at that. But I've had to, right? You know, I mean, it's so important. So anyway, yeah, I think it's important. Yes?
I have questions. Going back to the first slide, you say marketing your farm business. Your market is more Caucasian or is diversity?
I'm sorry, what are you asking?
Your market is diversity or is more Caucasian people?
On-screen market or diverse?
I would say it's more, so I would say like 70% of our sales go to the co-op groceries, and we go to a few of the Whole Foods market stores. Like 20% I do some weddings, I do like design work, and then the rest is like a CSA, we do some vegetables. I guess maybe a bigger percentage is the starter plants. So it's kind of spread out with a couple of different things. But our biggest markets are the retail markets for sure.
Okay,
Does that help?
Another question is that since you mentioned about like be consistent or tell a story, relationship, or take picture, but like when I compare your market to like my market, the customer, they don't really looking into this kind of topic. What they're looking for is like pricing or quality.
Yeah.
And they more are buying low price product. So any other recommendation that we can do to help us sell?
Yeah, so one thing I learned, because I have a marketing business myself. Oh, we started a question?
Can you tell? I didn't understand your question.
So she's wondering, like, in her market, it's more about like, what's the lowest price? Like, how can I find the lowest price? So she's wondering, and correct me if I'm wrong, she's wondering, like, how can she distinguish herself within that? Like, how can, right? Like, how can you distinguish what you're selling?
Yeah. They do. They're
Yeah.
looking for any of this. That's what they're looking for. So
Right.
So if you do this, we're not going to help our business grow.
Okay.
So any other recommendation that we can do to
So if your market doesn't really care about your brand, all they care is the cheapest price you can get, then that might not be the place you want to be selling at. Because you gotta be strategic about targeting who you're going after. Now, if you're going to be selling on University Avenue in the farmers market in front of Sun Foods, those guys are probably going to be undercutting you all the time. So a lot of times, if you brand yourself correctly and stand out, people won't mind paying extra if you let them know that, okay, these are my values, right? Remember last week we talked about values and your goals. So if you communicate that clearly to your customers, then a lot of times they wouldn't mind paying a higher price, especially if you say, okay, we're not certified organic, but we practice organic. We've been growing using organic practices or good agricultural practices. So you gotta make yourself stand out. Like I said, if you're not getting your money's worth at a certain market, that might not be the best place. And so that's when you have to be creative. Maybe a CSA, maybe retail or wholesale.
Yeah, but like for me, if I come here like to get resources, then I might move on to a different like the right market. But like about some other farmer out there, like or my experience in the past that have not finding or know any of this resource, and then like the market that I found when I applied, they say no, we don't accept any more vendor. And now we have full of vendor. So it's very hard to get into the market that you're looking for. And then plus, I do go to some outside farmer market, and there do customers that they don't look for price, they look for quality. So it's more like you're saying yours. Even though they go whatever price that you put on your product, the thing that you sell, and they go for what you put on. They didn't say anything about price. If that's what they need and they're looking for, then they buy it. Even though other vendors, they put a very cheap price. Like we sell 4, the other one sell 2, and they put more, and then we put less. But if they still want to buy it, they buy it.
Right.
Like that's also that's a big difference, and it's very hard to get into the right market that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So that's why I was wondering, like, because that's why I asked you, like, what customer that you have in your market?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
if I might add, she said something when we went to her farm. That statement she made, and it stick to my head. Even she said, the first thing she said, of everything we went there, she said she go to 2 farmers market. That's what she said. I think that was the last thing we came to. She said, this area, that is Brooklyn Park, what they're looking for is the price. But I go to the other side. These people, they look for quality. So I go home, I told my wife, I said, you know, she said 2 things. She go to Brooklyn Park because those people, they are shit. I know the group she talking about. Yeah, that's that. So since then, that is why when, you know, now we're looking for market, where do you go? So it depends on where you know, go. Because some people, even, I say stuff. Last year, I grew a lot of tomatoes, and people came to my house to buy. Wow. When they come, no, this is what they actually said, and I was mad. Because it's farmers market, at farmers market, the big box is $10. I can't say that for $10 because, you know, so I end up just giving them away, you know, to charity. Instead of me, because I put a lot of work for that and to compare that, and so it is really challenging. So I was reading, how can you deal with that? You talk to this, well, talk to the customers, everybody come to one price.
So
The other thing I have a comment about it is that,
I can hear you.
or a comment about it is that, you know, educating your customer. That could be helpful to
What?
educating your customer to
Maybe it's
not,
not going up.
that, well,
Educating
you
customers?
can, I mean, explain the difference between, okay, if you're growing organically, the difference between your potatoes, for example, versus, you know, the potatoes at Cook Foods or something that are not organic. You know, all those ones, maybe have more pesticides because they're not organic. And while potatoes, because they're grown in the soil, are going to absorb more pesticides. So the product that I'm growing is responsible for the earth. I'm putting soil back in the earth. I'm putting nutrients back in the earth. I'm putting minerals back in the earth. My product, because of the way I grow it, is more healthy for you. And I think, you know, but the other issue I think you're bringing up is the part where, you know, because we're minorities in America, a lot of times our people are in communities that are income limited. And so, you know, what do you do about that? And I think that's an important question that all of us have to address. You know, how do we help other people, our people? And
You try that, educating Brussels, and you try to educate
I've had a
I would like to say
But that's the
that.
other thing, health. Health,
Because
I mean, the fact that the greatest health disparities a lot of times are among,
See.
you know, minority people.
See, you have to
Because,
understand that.
you know, access to clean food and healthy eating, you know, explain, you know, the chips are not food for you.
A lot
So
of
the education is important. If you can explain that by eating more healthy, they will be more healthy in their body. You know, a lot of times people are eating organic because they're sick. They want to feel better.
if you're in the market, I'm from Africa.
Yeah.
And used to be a lot of immigrants from Africa. We all can. If you're going to explain to them, okay, oh, this is organic for better, they don't, you know what, I don't want to hear it, it's the cheap price. I don't care whether you do it. That is what it is.
They want to have those.
See, that is the problem that so the next thing I don't even, that is why I say, you know what, I don't even want to step with that.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Maybe that's the answer though.
Well-
Maybe that is not your customer.
For recommendation is work for Caucasian people, not for other.
For what, I'm sorry, what did you?
Follow recommendation.
Yeah.
And work for
You work for
They
that.
did
You work for
this.
the Americans.
Yeah.
Not for the immigrants.
The question they ask is,
Yeah.
do you use spray?
Yeah.
Do you use like chemical fertilizer?
Yeah.
Then you just tell them that you're always not organic, so the land is not organic. We grow like the plant without not dying, but because there's a limit to use, so we don't overuse or we don't use. There's certain time that we should not use before we sell it to people, and we also have insurance to protect our product that we sell. And then they listen to that and they understand. That's it. They do ask for occasionally, but like for other, following to what you're saying, so it doesn't work. So that's why I was wondering, like, what kind of customer you have in your market. So yours is working,
Yeah.
but like us is not.
Yeah.
How- Any other different way that we can use or do to improve? Because in our market, we go by like it's more like the more you buy, then you can compete to others. If you grow less, you can't because they sell it so cheap and what he's saying.
The only way you can compete with the immigrants if you sell something that any other person don't have. Just like Kano said, Kano have that. Kano is the only person producing that, and it is very, very hard for anybody to produce that. He can. There is a guy called Kano.
What is it?
Kano, yeah.
Ethiopian.
Ethiopia. That, unless that is the only way, because nobody ever produces it. And it is very, very hard. That is the only way you can sell it anyway. Otherwise, if Hichi have it, I have it, this have it, they don't.
I was wondering if these farmers markets that are out there, if there's like certain ones that just sells organic ones, and then there are certain ones that are not or are organic, and it's just whatever you can grow.
Yeah, and that, I think that is true. Like the Mill City claims to be chemically free. Like what they're selling is chemically free. I think, so to speak to what you're saying, this has been my experience. And I think my experience, obviously I'm a white person. And my experience like with FSA, being a native speaker and all of that, I think that is something that, like I feel that I feel like that has benefited me for sure. But I think that so all I can speak to is my experience. But I can say that we went to farmers markets and we had a hard time selling there. We chose to search out different markets and to find different relationships and to move on to other people, because what was happening is that we weren't making any money. We were like, this is not going to work for us. We are not going to be able to do this unless we can make money. And so that's kind of how we dealt with that. I do think the niche thing, finding something that you can grow that nobody else is growing, I think is a huge piece of it. I think also that education is really important, totally. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm, your community, right? And so how, you're telling me, how they're gonna respond to you, and it's gonna be different from that. I mean, even the design work that I do with flowers, I would never pay for that, right? I'm doing something that I know there are other people who have expendable income are willing to pay for, right? But that would not be I wouldn't be doing that for my wedding. So I don't know. I mean, does that kind of your community, and I think that, we have to be really creative. Farmers have to be really creative, and there are so many issues. I mean, the health issues, just the social issues, the race, everything. It's hard. It's hard, and we're trying to produce food. And flowers. but you're trying to produce food for people, which is like at the root of the, it's a very honorable thing to do. So you gotta, be creative, and I don't know. That's all I can tell you. I just have my experience.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. That's why when I listen to your stories, like, your experience it's like totally different.
It is, and not that you can't have value. I mean, I think I have some valuable things to share, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But I did think about this ahead of time, like, how is my experience going to translate, And I think that, anyway, I hope you can. And I'm just going to keep going here. So CSA, this has been a challenging thing, and I know Tom. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. I was just going to mention I switched the order of how you're.
Yeah, I noticed. That's okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So CSA, we have a small CSA share. I think this can be, I don't know, like, do you know Eduardo Rivera, Sin Fronteras Farm? He is growing, so he's Latino, and he's growing like.
Eduardo,
Yes.
that's Davis Farm?
Yeah.
That's Davis Farm.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. So he's doing some creative things. So he might be a good person to bring in here. He's doing some creative things to really serve the Latino community and, try to market in that area. Anyway, so this has been a good piece because, community-supported agriculture is great because you get investment up front. And so you have a little money in spring to spend on seeds and stuff. And it also invests people further in your business. So I think this is a great thing. Again, you have the control of the sale of the product. You got the direct market pricing. It's an upfront sale in the spring. It's a deeper consumer investment, so it gets people, invested. Challenges are that people are busy, and it's hard for them to commit to, like, I'll take 15 weeks of vegetables or whatever. Pickup locations can be tricky. You need to, control that. And then also, I think this is a really big thing that people are feeling now. Big groceries are stealing the language, like Fresh Time, or I don't know. I shouldn't be naming out. Whatever. I mean, I shop a lot of different places. But I just think, the language of CSA and the language and the image of, everybody's throwing a bomb on their advertising now because that means it's good. And so this can be this contributes to our challenging markets. So this is the value-added marketing thing where we do some events. So the education piece, I do wedding flowers. We do a lot of mixed bouquets, which I consider, we're processing our field products. I consider that adding value. I think the biggest piece of that, again, you have a lot of control. It increases the sales because you're adding value to it. And you can sometimes use an unusable product, like if you're making jam or whatever, you can use seconds. Like vegetables that wouldn't be as pretty. They would have some blemishes, but they're fine, right? I think the challenges with that is that licensing and sale rules can be tricky. You need more infrastructure. So commercial kitchen, you need, and I know there's a lot of creative ways. I don't know, does Big River do anything with value added? Yeah, it's kind of a whole other thing, yeah. But there are some community kitchens where you can rent space, and I know that communities are doing some things with this. So, I mean, right here, what's going on right over there is adding value.
Is that what you mean by licensing? Having licensing?
Yeah. So if you're making if you're taking your farm product and processing it into jam or whatever, there's different things, rules about selling it and stuff that are. You just have to learn how to navigate them. So it's extra time and labor, and I think that is one of the big things. Is that it can increase your sales, but you're also adding that whole other element of time and labor. So this is the bulk of what we do. We sell to the co-ops. We load up our van 2 times a week. And my husband and my son, often my son, drive into the Twin Cities. We're like an hour and a half from here. And deliver to co-ops and some of the Whole Foods markets. And that's been where we found our best markets. It was kind of untapped when we got into it 5 years ago. And it's just worked well for us. It's consistent sales, so we don't sell on commission. We have like a couple of the co-ops, we have like a set order. So we just know that, like for the Seward co-op on Franklin, we just know that we're gonna do 50 bouquets twice a week for them or whatever. You have one relationship with the buyer, that's the important relationship that you kind of have to, really nurture. And then you're creating the product and you drop it off, and somebody else gets to deal with all the people and all that stuff, and that's really nice. It can also be a challenge because, like I said before, someone else is taking care of your product. That buyer relationship is very important. So, like, we had an experience last year where one of the buyers moved into a different role, and the new buyer at the store just wasn't into our story. She just didn't know us, whatever. Anyway, so we lost. She just lowered her order numbers, and that affects us, pretty significantly. So if that were to happen with 3 people, that would be rough. Wholesale pricing is a little less than direct sales, so we do take a little bit of a pricing cut. It's a set delivery schedule, so there's not a lot of freedom. We have to, Monday and Thursday, we have to be harvesting and making bouquets all day. Tuesday and Friday, we have to be delivering. And that's May through October. So, our family is used to not seeing us during the summer when people do fun things. And, so there's just those things that can be challenging. And then you need to have a really consistent product. For the retail, they want to know what they're getting, and they want to be getting it, at the same time and relatively the same size and all that stuff. So, yeah. Thanks.
Is there going to be time for questions at the end?
Sure.
Yeah. Are you,
Yeah.
Yeah. Stick around to the end?
Yeah, I'm gonna hang out.
All right. So now you kind of know what different markets, benefits and challenges of each one of them. And of course, farmers markets is probably going to be one of the most challenging markets for you. But that's why we plan. You plan for growth, whether that's horizontal or vertical. And I'll be going through some of these today. Now, most of us are still small-scale farmers. You're consumer-facing, strong gross margin of sales, meaning if you're selling farmers markets, you might be able to sell a lot in one day. Might not be able to do that. There's lower overhead costs. You're not spending a lot of money on infrastructure, things like that. You're not going to be investing a lot of your own money in there because there's not a big financial requirement. You're probably going to get under $150,000 if you qualify to receive that financing. So you will do very well in large metro areas with large farmers market. These are kind of just some of the things that small scale farmers are. These are the characteristics. But how do you grow from this, right?
Can you go back? The large farmers markets or small markets. Now, what is the benefit? Is it better, large farmers markets better than small farmers market?
Well, it really depends, because if you're in a large farmers market, that means there's more competition. If you're in a small one, then it might not draw in as many people as you want.
But large markets generally get more traffic, so you're getting a lot more people coming through, but then there's more competition and maybe the prices are less or whatever, so there's kind of these trade-offs.
But isn't it also harder to get into those because the slots
Yes.
are so full?
Exactly.
Yes, like the St. Paul market, super hard. They've got like the satellite markets, like on, I don't know, West 7th or St. Peter or whatever. Like you can get into those, but it's really hard to get into that one
Yeah.
unless you've got something like duck eggs or something that other people don't have.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm just gonna say this, Tom, really quickly. So farmers markets too, they're a really good way to get as you're starting your business to just really up your game and get to know what you're growing and what works well for you and what you can do and what people like. It's a really good way to kind of it's a really good entry point for sales, I think, even though it can be harder to.
Right. I was gonna say that farmers market is probably the best tool to get input on your
It's a good tool.
Input on your products, your produce that you're growing. If people don't like it there, you might not be able to sell wholesale. So you gotta figure out how to grow better products. So it's I see it as a way to test your market, test your products, and get feedback from people. And that's actually one of the slides later on down the presentation. But let's keep going on staying small. If you're doing CSAs, one of the things that your market can reach maturity, meaning there's a set number of people that would be willing to buy your CSA, right? Also, you're going to be in a saturated market. If you're in the Twin Cities metro area, I think there's a ton of CSAs already. I mean, almost every farm that I've seen does a CSA. So if you're doing one yourself, it might be really hard for you to get to capture that market unless you can differentiate yourself with different services or products. So that's one thing to think about when you're doing CSAs. If you have your own farm, you can do your own, pick your own events, you can do weddings, other events like that. And you can do a farm stand, probably sell on your farm. I don't know if they can do that in Minnesota. Can you still do that in Minnesota?
Sorry.
A farm stand? Sell on your farm?
You can. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
the licensing. But the food truck thing, I mean, that, I don't know. There's some areas that are really wide open.
Right. So that's the thing. If you do that on your farm, you're going to require a lot of capital investment to bring your facilities up to code to even allow people on your farm in a public event like that. In a farmer's market, I'll just use the most popular, but it's difficult to scale up unless your market is large. And of course, you'll be supplying local chefs, consumers. Yep.
So what about instances of people who are having consumers do pick your own on their farm? Does that require licensing?
I would assume so.
Well, I think it depends on what you tell your insurance agent, right? And I think some people do it on the up and up, and some people aren't. So the insurance, I mean, I don't know. The insurance is not that. I mean, you have to have certain insurance. Like on our farm, we just went over insurance. We have to have $1 million coverage, and it's not, it's not that. It's not super out of the line. Anyway, I think that I think it depends on. It's not that bad. It's okay.
In case someone gets hurt on your farm because
Yes.
they're picking their own stuff, or okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So one thing that I want to give advice to you guys is don't get stuck on the farmer's market. I mean, this is a good entry point and a good way to test your products. But if you're planning to do this long term and have this be your well-being, where you're making most of your money, I would say you need to plan for growth. And one of the ways to grow is horizontally, or what they call is horizontal integration, which is the acquisition of additional business activities at the same level of the value chain. And the value chain is really every step that you take to create your final product. So simplify, you add more business activity that's similar or complements what you're already doing. So for example, let's just say you're a beef farmer. Anybody have any idea how you can grow horizontally that will complement your beef farm? If you have grass, let's say it's grass-fed beef. That's very, it's not a big market yet. So let's say one way you can grow horizontally is if you open up a butcher shop. You've gotten enough sales, enough capital where you're able to open up a butcher shop, get some financing from FSA, or maybe not FSA, but your CDFI lenders, your small lenders. You can open up a butcher shop. And if that butcher shop for your grass-fed beef is very popular, it gets you're starting to get more money generated, more revenue generated from that, you can open up a restaurant. So then your beef farm supplies your butcher shop. It also supplies your restaurant. And so one of the great things about horizontal growth is that this can eventually lead to vertical growth. So it's where vertical growth or vertical integration is the more technical term, is when it's a strategy where your company it expands its business operations to different steps along the same production path. So let's say, to simplify that, your company does everything to produce or sell your product. So let's say you're the same beef farmer, you have your butcher shop, it's getting a lot of popularity. Chefs are coming to you to buy steaks, to buy hamburgers, and it's getting really popular. Everybody loves your stuff. So to grow vertically from that, what you could do is start processing meat. I mean, you already processing meat in the butcher shop, but maybe now that you're gaining so much more popularity, you could have your own facility to process more meat. You can start processing for other farmers, things like that. You can also do your own packaging in-house. I mean, most of the time if you're processing your packaging as well. But then you can also be shipping your own products. There's this one meat shop, I don't remember what it's called, but they deliver meat everywhere. It's like Red Swan or something like that. I can't remember. Schwann's. Yeah, it could be, yeah. Yep, so these are some of the things you might want to think about when you're planning for your growth. So if you can grow horizontally, if you have your niche market, like say if Kano has his niche ingredient and he can create other things, other products with that, he could be doing his own restaurant or something like that, or packaging that for a broader market. So to be able to do any of this, you need a good business model. One thing about your business model is that it's not the product that determines whether your company makes money, it's the business model. A lot of times people come up with a great product and start selling it. It's like, oh yeah, this is great, this is my business model, I'm gonna sell this thing. But you have to think the business model is really the plan of how you generate revenue and make profit. You have to think about your company, your business as a whole. So it's not just selling this great thing that you're making, but it's every step of the way. You got to think about how you're gonna, how you can lower your costs so that you can get a larger profit margin. And one thing I forgot to mention about vertical growth is that once you've established this value chain, and you can eventually lower your own costs because you have direct control of every step along the way. That means you can either pass it on to your end consumers at a cheaper price, or keep it at the same level and make profit. I mean, some businesses do that. So yes, business model. So I want to do a case study on K-Mama sauce. Have you guys seen this guy around? Yeah, so he's from Minnesota. And his is just a product, but he does have a business model. He has a single item, he has various spice levels, he has a gluten-free option, he has really good branding. It's a simple, clean label with a simple logo, and then the red bar indicates that it's spicy. You can't really see it there. He just sells to grocery stores. I think some restaurants have accepted him. He's always flying around, attending national convention, trade shows, demos its products, sells it there. That's a great way for you to meet wholesale buyers. And so I always see him. I think last year I saw him at Moses or something too. And so he's always around. And I don't know how long he's been doing it, but he's pretty successful. He's in 10 states right now. I did a little research on him, and it's pretty amazing for this guy in Minnesota to be able to do this. So that's just a product. If he just had a product and didn't know, and he wasn't attending conventions, things like that, he wouldn't be able to sell outside of Minnesota, even the Twin Cities. Another idea for a business model, just to get you guys thinking about how to make money, right, is Costco. So with Costco, I know it's not related to farming necessarily, but it's just to get you thinking about how you plan to make money besides just selling to direct to consumers. So Costco, when you go there, you're buying stuff at a really cheap price compared to if you were to go somewhere else. Because they make almost no money from sales. Everything they sell basically covers the costs that it takes to get to the store. So how do they make money? Anybody know how they make money? If you're selling things, you're just covering costs. How do you make money? Yes, exactly. The membership, subscription, is called the subscription business model, subscription-based business model. And so they make all their money through memberships.
I wonder if they own the facility, like that building.
Oh yeah, I mean they own the whole chain.
It would also include real estate too.
Real estate.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, like
I saw that movie, but
yeah, like McDonald's.
Yeah, McDonald's. Like,
yeah, so like
McDonald's is not in the business of making burgers; they're in the business of making real estate. So they own all these pieces of property, and it's all real estate.
Yep.
They're not in the business of making burgers.
Yep. So McDonald's, for example, they don't make any money selling their stuff. They're selling their fries and burgers. It's about where they choose to place, or where they choose to buy land and lease it out to a franchiser to come in and build on it. And so, I mean, it's super high level, but if you start thinking that way, you start thinking of yourself more as a business and not just a farmer, then you can start planning for these things, planning for growth, planning for a business model that's unique to this area. Now, business model is great, but how do you get to a fundable business model? So if you bring your business plan saying, I'm a farmer, I'm growing vegetables, and I want to sell to retail, bring it to a lender. If they're really strict, they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, how do you plan to get it there? How do you make yourself more attractive to lenders and investors when you get to that process, that part where you're ready to expand? A fundable business model. These are some of the characteristics that you need to have to be considered a fundable business model. You need to have a defensively unique value proposition. And I'll talk about this in the next slide. You need sufficient market and business scale to generate enough cash flow. So if you're in that small market and people are buying your stuff really cheap, you might not be able to scale up. Again, right brand. Branding is so important, guys. Like, I can't stress that enough. Jennifer said it, I'm gonna say it again. Branding is super, super important. Some people only buy based off brands. I mean, if you think about Supreme, have you guys ever heard of this? Supreme? Literally, their logo is a red box with the word Supreme in there, and they slap it on anything, and people will buy it for thousands of dollars. So, it's like, they've sold a brick with the Supreme on it for like $3,000, and people buy that stuff because it's the brand, it's high class. They like that stuff. And so you can brand yourself in an appropriate way, and you have the right packaging, pricing, sales, distribution channels. I mean, that makes you very fundable to lenders and investors. Sorry, did you have something to add?
No, sorry. I was just playing fine. No, but I agree. I just think that, when my son was a year and a half, he'd be like, Target.
Yeah.
When he saw the bullseye, no matter what bullseye it was, Like, I just think our brains are wired to, like, have these little packages. And when you see, I mean, it's not just that, though. I mean, it's like being clear on what you're doing. We need to be entrepreneurs. We need to be farmer entrepreneurs. Like,
Yes.
I just think we do if we want to make money doing this.
Yep.
And we do.
Yeah. Otherwise, why are we here? And some other things to consider to be fundable is that you need the right staff, production facilities, quality assurance is super important, especially traceability, and enough capital to fund your growth, which means some of your own money to put in. If you go to a lender and say, hey, I need $100,000 to do this project, and you haven't invested any of your own money in there, they're most likely not going to fund you because they want to see that you've got some skin in the game as well. And so it's important to start saving up money if you ever plan to grow horizontally or vertically. So, in a defensively unique value proposition, in a world with largest existing players, how can we compete? So in the food world, it's known as, the food industry is known as an understood market. So there are certain ways to do things that have stood the test of time. So how do you make yourself stand out from that? Maybe you're providing a new solution to old problems. Maybe you differentiate yourself in a niche market. Maybe you have a hit new brand that people love. You're rapidly innovating your processes and how you can make your end product. And your potential to grow into other markets. So what makes you defensively unique? In a world where everybody's doing green apples, how do you become the red apple? Sometimes it's the product that makes it unique. Your ingredients, maybe it's a special way that you're making this product. Maybe it's your old grandma's jam recipe. You know, is it the variety of things that you're going to be doing with your product? Is it the terroir? And this is interesting because this terroir basically means from the earth, and it mostly relates to things like wine and cheese, right? So you know how like there's special cheese that they can only produce in Italy, things like that. So if your product is something like that, definitely you're going to get funded because they know that nobody can do what you do. Is your packaging different? Is it available only a specific place, or is it going to broaden your market? A lot of times it's the personal relationships that makes you unique. Like we said earlier, develop those relationships early and keep them going because they will pay off, eventually. Is your product providing a customer experience that is unique? These are some of the things that will make you defensively unique and make you more attractive to funders or lenders. So back to K-Mama sauce in our first case study. It's just a hot sauce made, Korean style hot sauce. You can get the same product imported from Korea, but what makes them defensively unique? Well, they source locally. They're vegan, all natural. Maybe the other guys are also vegan and all natural, but that's not their brand, right? They have a gluten-free option. I don't think anybody in Asia is thinking about being gluten-free. So when they import the product here, their stuff isn't gluten-free either. A portion of their donation goes to charity. So that's something obviously you can do that as well, but just the fact that their company does this and donates regularly is attractive to some of the buyers, right? And one thing I forgot to put up here is that KC, the owner, told me that this recipe that he's using in all of his hot sauce is something that his mom has been doing for forever. And so that's why it's called K-Mama. And so just being able to tell that story, telling how it came to be, and that you're sourcing locally, things like that make it really attractive. And that's why he's been able to get to 10 states. So the next thing you want to do in your business is to know your market. Your product is great. K-Mama is great. But it takes a great product and a compelling business opportunity to survive and thrive. And to do this, you will need a lot of data. Most of the time, data is not free, but I think sometimes if you're really gearing yourself to get at this level, it'll be worth it for you to invest some money into data. And this will be, further down the road if you're a beginning farmer, but this is something that you should be thinking about. So some data that you require for your business to get up to that level is to understand the macro trends in food. And so that's macro trend is like how the whole United States is responding to food trends. One of the things I learned through some of my trainings is that a lot of the millennials now are not sitting down in restaurants eating a whole meal. You might be snacking along throughout the day. So you'll see nowadays that there's a lot of little snack foods popping up all over the place. That's because they know, they did the research, they know the macro trends of food and how people are eating nowadays. You need to know what specific target customers you're looking at, what are the demographics, psychographics, how are they thinking, and your general attitude towards buying. Some people buy food online, but most of the time people still go to farmers market, grocery stores to buy their produce. It's funny because I was watching a video, they're saying that going out into farmers markets and grocery stores and looking for your own groceries is actually hardwired into our brains because, back in the day we were scavengers. And so that actually just being able to go to a store or a farmer's market, looking around, it actually releases dopamine, so it makes you happy. And so that's why grocery stores are never gonna go away. You're never gonna be able to do online sales of lettuce or something like that. You wanna be able to go and see the actual product and pick it out. You need to understand where your markets live and how you're going to be getting things from there. So you need to know your distributors and where to deliver to. So customer feedback, that's why we were stressing on the farmer's market, using that as a tool to test your products, to get customer feedback. Do they like how it tastes? Do they like how the product looks like? Is your labeling okay? Or positioning, which basically means how do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? You've always seen those commercials about cars, right? Like, our car gets 30 miles per gallon while Ford gets this much and Toyota gets this much. And so just positioning yourself in that way will also give you an upper hand in the market. One thing is to understanding your business benchmarking and financial metrics. Now this gets really technical, but you need to understand basically is your break-even point. How much have you invested into your business? And how long will it take for you to recoup that amount of money? That means once you recoup that break-even point, everything else is profit, depending on a lot of different factors. But understanding those things and setting goals, that is how you grow in any direction. So, like I said, starting small, gathering data, best thing, customer feedback. So like again, farmer's market, do this at your farmer's market. Do they like your lettuce? Do they like your cilantro? Things like that. Make sure that you're writing things down. Ask open-ended questions and listen. Like I said, you want feedback on your product, packaging, labels, competitors' products. How's your neighbor's cucumbers look compared to yours? This will be harder, I think a little bit more difficult, but if you're going wholesale, you can also do demos at grocery stores and give examples or get samples for chefs to try out. Have you done any demos in stores or anything like that?
When I worked for the farm, I did a lot of demos.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, that's a part of that relationship building. It's like be out there and talk to people and get your face out there and get your product out there. That's all your brand. Your brand isn't just your logo. Your brand is like your whole thing.
Yeah, it's literally everything, and how it's not just the logo, it's who you are, it's how people see you, it's how people feel when they think about you.
People like to be asked what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they like to feel good. So
Yep.
how can you do that?
Yeah. And so I found a couple of nice tools for you to use. Both of these you have to pay for. There's another tool I have for you that's free that will be very useful for a lot of us. But the Organic Trade Association, under Resources Market Analysis, they actually have some free resources that are about the macro trends on food. I remember I saw a map saying like 72% of the US actually buys organic. So just understanding that and knowing that 72% of people actually want organic food will already give you an upper hand. But if you want more specific data sets, you can purchase them if you're a member for roughly $1,000. Some of them are a little lower, some of them are higher. It depends on what you're trying to look at. And then specialty foods, learning specialtyfood.com. The data is actually presented in video format. I haven't bought anything from them yet, but everything that they have is in video format. But the courses are under $100. Some of them are only like $45. You get a whole video on, the cracker industry and what are the trends in the cracker industry. So yeah, these are the tools that help you to do research if you're doing value added. I'm not too sure if they have a lot of data on like produce, like just raw produce to sell them that. But it doesn't hurt to gain some more knowledge to better direct the growth of your business, right? So the important thing with farming is that you need to know your target customers. So if you're going to sell at a farmer's market, who's your customer base? If you know they're not going to buy things at the premium price for your organic produce, then maybe that's not the right place to be selling at. So like it says up here, you can't sell expensive products that are inconvenient to people who aren't already motivated enough to buy them. So if you want to focus on segments that are already motivated to buying your produce, so things you want to know is where they live. How do they buy your product? Do they go to the store to buy it, or do they order it online? Who distributes the products like yours in your target market? And how can you get enough of them to build a viable business? How many customers do you need to be able to profit in the long run, right? So one of the tools I found that is really useful is actually Nielsen's Prism tool. This is a long URL, but it's on your notes here. But this is really useful. You're planning to go, selling through the whole state, through, regionally or even nationally. So this is really cool because it breaks everybody up into these little segments, right? Your market segments, and they'll say, okay, let's see here. They're looking at right here, city startups. So it gives you a short description of who this segment is. It says here, for city startups, it says they're young to middle-aged, multi-ethnic singles that have settled neighborhoods filled with cheap apartments and commercial base of cafes, bars, laundromats, and clubs that cater to the people that are around 20-somethings. One of the youngest segments in America with 10 times as many college students as the national average in the neighborhoods that feature lower income, high concentrations of African American and Hispanic households. It's pretty cool because it shows you a lot of things. You can look at the neighborhood demographics, household demographic, lifestyle. You can even get their average income, average household income. And this thing looks at zip code level. It's crazy the amount of information you can get from this. Look, it even shows you the lifestyles and media traits. I mean, this city startup
This is a
group,
free thing.
yeah, this is free.
That's funny.
It's crazy. So look, this is right here. These people, this 47, the startups, 20-somethings, they shop at Express, the clothing store Express. They vacation at casinos. They read PC Gamer. They talk, they watch talk shows, and they lease vehicles. They have demographic traits. They're second city, lower income, lower assets, under 55. And so once you identify your target segment, like who are the best people to sell your product to, then you can actually take this and look it up, search that nationally, so that you will get every single zip code will show up where this market segment lives. And so there are certain segments that, let's say, whey protein, right? If you're making whey protein from cow's milk or something like that, most of those people will probably live in California. I did a little bit of research into this myself. So they're in the coast. A lot of times, if you're doing a lot of high-end product, those guys are usually along the coast, not really in the Midwest here. But that's why you have to do your research to understand where your market is. If you want to stay local, then figure out what products people want here in Minnesota. But if you want to go nationally, and do your research like this, then you can kind of figure out, okay, I need to go to the West Coast or the East Coast.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to that website and you put your product on it to search,
If you want to search by product, I think you actually have to buy the program.
okay, so this, what do you do?
So this is useful to understanding who your target market is, how they react, how they behave, and where they live. So it doesn't really necessarily focus on what products they're buying. I think you have to buy the program to actually be able to look at each product. But if you understand how people are already using your product, if you're in the farmers market, you're doing your research, talking to people, you're understanding, who they are, how they behave. You can search them right here.
Oh, you can do that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
If you have a farmer's market located in Brooklyn Park, you can search people that live there.
Yeah.
Oh.
You search Brooklyn Park and then you find, actually, let's do a little search right now. Let's see if I can, so if you go to this website, segmentsolutionsnielsen.com, you go, this doesn't show up there. Is it this way? There you go. Okay, so this program right here, let's go to zip code lookup up here, okay? So click on that. Once you're here, what is Brooklyn Park's zip code?
55443.
55443. 55443. Let's look that up. Oh, there we go. So on the going over here, you will see that these are the people that live in that area, right? They're wealthy, middle age, mostly with kids. Another one, mostly with kids. Upscale, older, mostly without kids. Mix of family, younger, mostly with kids. So and then down here, you'll be able to see, how many people are usually in a household. I mean, it switches, but population, age, ethnicity, household income. Yeah. So then let's say, man, I really like to sell my product to wealthy middle age, and they have to have kids. You click on that, and then it'll show you where they all live in the United States. So look, it tells you they own Acura, they eat at Chipotle, they shop at Banana Republic. It's crazy how much it is. But let's look at this. See, so now you see where these people are. In the red is where they're highly concentrated. In the green and yellow areas, it's kind of sparse, but that's still where they live. And so now you can see that your target market here, these are the areas they are living in. And so let's try to zoom into Minnesota. Right, so now you can see
St. Columbus, somewhere.
see all this area right here. All these.
Is that,
What's that?
Is that anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Hennepin County.
that's Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Actually, St. Paul, Ramsey County, actually has less of those than the surrounding
So
area.
Hennepin County or Minneapolis?
Yes.
Yeah, looks like it's everywhere but St. Paul or Ramsey County. And so you can, I'm pretty sure you can zoom in even closer. Let's try that. I don't know if they'll break it down by zip code right now. Yeah, it looks like it's not going to break it down by zip code. But now you kind of know what counties these people are in. So if this is your target market, then you want to be finding farmers markets that are in these counties, zip codes, right? So this is totally free. I suggest all you guys go and play around with this a little bit, especially when you start to understand who your target customers are. You should do this. Like I said, knowledge is power. So if you know this stuff, you know where you need to go to capitalize on that. Any questions so far? I love this stuff because data and marketing and stuff is my specialty, so I get really excited. Yep.
For the information that you have, and is been to the farmer that have been farm for a long time, and they know, those that they know deeply about their product or they are confident about their product, what they're growing, so they may be able to move on to that step. Or can be in general that even though we're a beginning farmer or we're new, we still learning and we can still be able to get into those.
Yeah, I would say at any step in the way, you should still always be doing your research on who your target customers are and how they behave. I think it's even more critical in the beginning so that you know how to direct the growth of your business. Right? So if you're growing beets or something like that and it's not super popular here, maybe it's only seasonally eaten, then you might need to adjust your business model to say that, okay, maybe beets isn't the right product to be growing here in Minnesota. Maybe I need to switch that up, do something else. And so I think that this is a good way for you to always keep evolving your business and not just staying the same.
I have a question that's kind of related to your explanation. Like, what are some things you can do with like the waste of your farm besides the way the compost pile? Like, can you donate it, get a tax write-off, or like what do farmers do?
So that's actually our next thing. Stop working. Oh. Okay, so that's why we're going to be doing the lean business model. This will actually help you. Her question was, what do you do if you have a lot of extra produce, right? Instead of wasting them, you donate them or something. Right, so let's just say one of your problems, and we'll work on this together. So we want to, with the lean business model canvas, you want to look at what problems are you having, how can you solve those problems, what is your unique value proposition, right? What is your unfair advantage? This is your unfair advantage. What are the things that people can't copy? Your target customers, how are you going to measure your success? Channels, how are you going to get your product to the customer? What is going to cost you money, and how are you bringing money in? And so let's say one of your problems is that you have too much left over, right? Too much left over. So let's say at the end of every farmer's market you have too much extra tomatoes, that are just going to waste. You have too much peppers that are just going to waste. You have a lot of other things. So let's say this is what the reality of things are, right? You're always going to have a little leftover in the farmer's market. But let's say, let's just say you go to your grocery store, you're trying to buy a hot sauce you like. They don't sell anything up there. It doesn't fit your taste, or it doesn't, it's not what you wanted to have, or what you want to, it's not what you want to bring home, right? So, say another problem, it's not really related to your farm, it's more about the market. So let's say nobody, or no one sells the hot sauce I like. Let's just say these hot sauces that are selling at the grocery stores, we don't know how they're made. There might be chemicals in there that we don't know about. Hot sauce. So what are the solutions to that? Well, for one thing we could do is to use our leftover tomatoes and peppers, and we can create a all natural, organic hot sauce. That itself already sounds unique to me. But let's kick it up a notch. All local ingredients. And let's say we'll have flavors to match region. To match the region. Sorry about sloppy handling. But I want you guys to use this. Oops, I didn't mean that. So guys, I want you guys to use this to kind of think about how you're going to be growing your market, or how to solve some of these problems that you have, especially if you have leftovers, right? So if the problem is if you have too much peppers, tomatoes, nobody sells the hot sauce you like, you don't know what's being added to the hot sauce, and you can do it all natural, organic, sourced locally. You can create flavors that match the region of what people like to eat here. So what are some of the key metrics that we can use to measure the growth of this? Most of the time, it's going to be sales. Or you can do like a membership thing where every month you send them a hot sauce, a basket of hot sauce. So you can be really creative with this. So now you know what the problem are. You know what your solutions are to the problem. And you can solve that through sales. What is your unique value proposition? So we can say that this super hot fire sauce, so we're already getting to branding, right? This is a super hot fire sauce. It's a locally, yep, so this is locally grown, organic hot sauce that has bold flavor and just the right amount of spices to match everybody's palate, right? So that's a unique value proposition. It's already sounding attractive. If I was a funder, I would give you some money. So what is your unfair advantage? Maybe what you're doing, maybe because the problem, one of the problems that these grocery stores weren't selling the hot sauce you liked. Maybe the problem, or maybe your unfair advantage is that you're using your mom's recipe or your grandma's recipe, something that's been handed down. Something like that is very attractive. That can't really be replicated somewhere else. So maybe it's an old family recipe. Maybe every part of the process of creating this hot sauce is made by your farm and your farm only. So it's a single family that owns this whole operation. So nobody can replicate this because only you know how to do this and only you are doing this. So we have that. Your unique value proposition. You have an unfair advantage against everybody else already. So how are you going to get this product out to your customers? One of the ways is, as a startup, starting out small, you just want to test the market. So like we said, use your tools, go to the farmer's market, do your research there, make sure people like your branding, make sure they like the packaging, make sure they like the taste, if that's going to be really important. And also the price. Is it going to be priced correctly? Are people going to be compelled to buy your product if it's a higher price? Maybe your branding is so great, people love your branding that they don't mind paying that extra couple dollars. And then once you have enough sales, or once you have enough popularity at the farmer's market and sales, obviously, you can go retail. You can go start going retail, selling to grocery stores. Or you can even test it with different chefs. See if they like the hot sauce that they'll buy from the restaurant. Kind of like, I would say it could be something like you can sell to Chipotle and have them have that at every single store to put on their burritos. Now, how amazing would that be if Chipotle picked up your hot sauce? That's a lot of money. And then also, when you're doing this workshop, you want to understand, or not this workshop, this canvas, you want to understand your customer segments. So maybe the area you want to sell is is the urban area with high density. Maybe it's a specific ethnicity that you're going for. I know if I made a hot sauce, I want to make sure that I can sell it within my community first before spreading that and expanding my markets. And so you might want to start thinking about who your customers are, how you can cater to them first, and then start growing from that. With the cost structure, it's really just about how much it's going to cost you to grow some of these things or to do this. So it might be, the processing is going to cost you a lot. You might need a processing machine at your farm to be able to do this, or you need to buy one and use it over here where it's a certified kitchen. It could be the bottles, right? It'll even get more expensive if your bottle is unique. You're unique and you're getting it custom made for you. It might be worth the extra $1 to do a unique bottle, but you might not need to. Like K Mama Sauce had a really basic bottle, and that works for them. So there's a lot of factors. I'm not going to go through every single thing that's going to go into your cost structure, but to just give you ideas and start thinking about what is going to cost me money along the way of producing this single bottle of hot sauce. And then your revenue streams, how are you going to make money? Definitely retail. I want us to be able to sell that to grocery stores, to restaurants. Maybe you want to do, if you're doing a hot sauce, maybe you can do different varieties. Maybe you can do this almost like a CSA, right? Like that could be a part of your business model, saying if you love my hot sauce, we can send it to you every month or every week or something like that for a single price for a time period, kind of like a CSA. So there's different things you can do and try to be creative of how you can gain different sources of revenues. So like Jennifer, you said that you have your retail, which is about how much percent of your revenue is that?
Like 70 probably.
Right. So you'll have a part of your market that is a cash cow that's going to be always guaranteeing you some sort of income. But then you want to diversify. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. What if one day all these retailers decide not to buy from you anymore, right? And Jennifer, what were the other ways you were saying?
Design, like some value-added design work.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Maybe some vegetables, some starter plants.
Yeah.
CSA, we have a flower CSA. I think this has been great to, I think that looking at the area, the Brooklyn Park Market or whatever, one of the things that we learned early on with our business is that you really kind of got to go where the money is. If there are people that are willing to pay for your product, then sell it to them. You know what I mean? I feel like farmers are asked to educate, we're asked to feed the world, we're asked, there's so many things that you want to, right? You want to do that for our community. But if you want your farm business to be viable and to make money, then you do have to go where you can make money. And you have to figure out where that is. We're going into our 6th year. So just last year, I was able to add some things where I'm not making a lot of money on those things, but because we are making money over here, I can do those things, like having kids out to the farm, like going to a women's shelter in St. Paul and doing flowers with them. Some things that I really enjoy, and so I think that's a really important thing in this exercise is identify where you can make money and then go there. Don't try to push your product where it's not being bought or you're not getting what you need for it, because if you fail, then you can't go for, that's it. You know what I'm saying?
And I think a lot of us are really altruistic. We want to be able to help people. But you can't help people until you help yourself.
It's okay to make money.
Yeah.
It's okay to get a good price and to not, and to say, like, I'm gonna go here because I need to make money. That is gonna help you in the long run. And then you can do some of those other things. You can
Right.
pay it backward, pay it forward, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't be afraid of money. You know, everybody says money is the root of all evil, but you really have to be able to sustain yourself before you're able to do some of these things. If you weren't making 70% of your sales in retail, you know, you wouldn't be able to go to these shelters and to do these smaller projects, right?
And I'm still working off farm. That was a big thing for us too. Like, I had this dream of being on this farm and like working together, and you know, that's not gonna happen for us. I have student loans. Like, we're not gonna, the markets are apart, you know. Anyway, I'm saying, like, I'm still working on farm. I'm still doing other things to help supplement our income. And that's cool. Like, I'm okay with that. I wasn't before. I kind of had to come to terms with it, right? Like, I had to go, okay, this is how this is going to work for our family.
Right? Yeah. So.
But we love it. And it's, I mean, farming is a great living. I mean, it's a great way to spend your time. Like, you know, it's fun. And being an entrepreneur and doing these things, getting creative and, you know, selling a product that people want to buy is awesome. Like, it feels really good and good for people.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's all I have for today. We're ending a little bit early, but now we're open to questions, I guess. And, you know, I'm always available to talk, whether that's getting some ideas on how to use your unused product. You know, there's a whole world out there that I can't even add onto this because it's going to get very complicated. I just came back from a training at DC that focused all on this by the creator of Tara's Way. I don't know if you guys heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing business. So that's where I learned a lot of this stuff, and I wanted to pass it on to you guys. So you guys start thinking about ways to use this unused product that you have if you're farming, right? So yeah.
Since we're talking about unused products again, like, is it possible for farmers who have leftover produce to donate it, or do something get a tax write-off or something that benefits you instead of just throwing stuff in the compost?
Yep, there's a bunch of options for that. You can, there are different companies that will come and glean your produce, so they'll come and like go to your field and take your unused product. If it's picked, you know, if it's harvested and you can't unload it and you need to get rid of it, like Second Harvest Heartland, that they'll buy your produce, or not buy it, you'll donate it to them and then you get a tax write-off. There's a number. I mean, Russ Davis now processes, like the Minneapolis public schools and even like Roseville public schools. A lot of the public schools are doing a lot with farm to school food and making that more accessible for farmers. So that's a great option. I know like Reese, the director here, he's working with the U of M to try to get them to have more produce in there. So, you know, there's so many avenues that we can, it's just being really creative and being really persistent. I mean, it's...
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, like, as a farmer, it's so hard because you kind of have to do everything. You know, you have to be the salesperson, you have to be the executive, you have to be the CEO, you have to be the marketer, you're the face of the business. You're actually in the field growing, so there's a lot of skills you need to obtain. But I think the more you should learn about yourself, you know, now if you understand your strengths and your weaknesses, then you know if you're making enough money, you would be able to hire somebody to help you do some of those things. And maybe, you know, kind of a different note, but you know, I was talking to some of the folks in the trainings about food hubs and how a lot of food hubs aren't able to reach their break-even point. And a lot of times it's because they think they don't see the food hub as a business model, and they do like CSA, wholesales, and everything. But and then they're not focused on the sales portion of things. They don't even hire a broker to go out and do things like that, or to go make sales into larger corporations. And so sometimes it's worth it to have somebody go out and sell your produce for you. You know, I mean, you'll need a good relationship with that broker, but if they're able to go out and get you a sale over at Hy-Vee or Whole Foods or Cup Foods, it will be worth it to have somebody like that.
And that's why, yeah, it's nice to be like, I think my husband and I complement each other well. It's nice to have a partner or, somebody that you can kind of take on, because he's way better with like cover crops and field work than I am. But I'm good at talking to people and like going in and getting the market, talking to the buyers and like making those relationships. And so if you have like a sibling or a friend who's into that and really understands your business, let them do. People want to help you, and this, you can pay people in vegetables. You can, people like good food and they want you to succeed. So yeah, I agree. Like, let people help you and sell your stuff.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, the food world is an understood market. There's experts out there that know how to get things done, and so it wouldn't hurt to just ask them, give me some tips. I don't have enough money to pay you, but just give me some ideas.
Well, and I think it's so interesting, like the whole Costco thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is who we're competing with, right? Like, you can buy really cheap food. You can buy really cheap organic food at Costco. Mm-hmm. Because Costco isn't making money on food. They're making money on real estate.
Yep.
I mean, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's wrong. So, like, I think so just communicating that. Like, I think other people feel that way too, right? So just communicating that. I'm sorry, Costco. I have shopped at Costco.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, it's great. You have all these giant quantities of whatever you want.
Right. Yeah.
I have specific questions for Humble Pie Farm.
Sure.
And so I have like about 4 questions. I was wondering if you could talk about how much like training you did before you started the incubator farm. Like, did you intern somewhere or Austin or where it's the farm?
Yeah, so her question is, what kind of training did we do before we started our farm business? We both worked, my husband worked for a farm. He was like managing that farm when we started our business. I worked for that farm, Gardens of Eden, for kind of off and on for like 3 years before. So that was, I mean, I had like done school gardens and, a lot of gardening before that, but yeah. And I kind of broke my rule. I always say like, go and work at another farm and learn how to do that before you do that. And I didn't do that with flowers. I just like jumped into flowers because there were a lot of great vegetable growers that I knew, and I was like, well, the flower market seems to be pretty open. Let's try it.
Yeah.
So I had some ups and downs with that, but yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that's one down. Okay. So you talked about you had an incubator farm like at Gardens of Eden before they were sold. And so my question was like, okay, you had to like move. So how did you choose your land and like why? And then can you talk about the experience of restarting your farm like after moving, because you probably had a market in Northfield, but then like I don't know, you're in Amory now or?
No, we're in Plum City, which is like Ellsworth. I don't know, we're like 20 minutes southeast. So the question was like, how did we choose? So our markets were the Twin Cities. So we had like these rules for ourselves. Like, okay, first thing we know is that we're not sticking around, because they were like, we're gonna sell the farm, they may want the staff to go with it, and we were just like, you can't give us any guarantees. This is our family, this is our livelihood, like this is everything. We've really worked hard. We really worked hard at that farm. So it was not really well handled by the Wedge board at that time, and so we just said, we're out of here. We're gonna find something new, whatever that means for us. Because we had a pretty strong community and a lot of relationships, we were able to, like, my uncle is an egg appraiser, and so he found this place for us, and I think that is a really challenging thing for people, is to find land. And our land is not, it's just very different from what we knew. It's much denser soil. It's very clayey. It's fine. It's great. But like our land in Northfield that we were renting and working for, that is beautiful soil. They call it chocolate cake. And it really is. I mean, it's just like this fluffy, lovely soil. But it's like $10,000 an acre, right? And so we were not able to pay that. So we found this place in western Wisconsin that we could afford, and that was in a 70-mile radius, so we could still have those markets. And that is really what enabled us to move, was having those markets set, because we could move our business. I went to work full-time for Moses, which was really hard to be doing the farm business, and we have a 5-year-old, and working full-time on this new farm where we had to build infrastructure. And so it was very challenging, and still continue. I mean, we're just like kind of coming out of it 2.5 years later, where we're like, okay, we had a good year last year. The first year farming, July 5th, we had a storm with 6 confirmed tornadoes and straight line winds. And let me tell you, flowers do not like either any of those things, and it was a mess. And we were like, we were just like so shell-shocked. And so, anyway, so that was a rough year. We, things are resilient. We got through it, and we had a great employee and stuff. But anyway, this last year we had a good year, and the weather was better. So anyway, I'm sorry. I don't need to just like go on. If you guys want to please go ahead.
Can I mention some resource too? If you are a small-scale farmer, read the book called The Market Gardener by John Martin, the Canadian guy. It's very good. It's about crops planting, everything, implementing whatever you use in the gardening. That's very helpful. He also have YouTube channel. If you do urban farming in small scale, and read the book as what they call the Green Acre, what they call it, Curtis Stone. Curtis Stone
is great.
Yeah.
He's got so many good ideas.
Oh, if you need additional resources by video or reading a book to help you upscale or enhance your skill, then you can read a book called The Market Gardener. Yeah, and by John Martin, is a Canadian farmer. And for small scale, Curtis Stone, book called, what do you call it?
Urban garden.
Yeah, the urban farming. Urban farmer. Urban farming.
He's got a bunch of YouTube videos too, where he shows you how to make really cheap greenhouses and stuff with electrical conduit. It's great.
Yep. He's so smart. He started just a couple years ago, but now he's very popular. He just teach classes and have a workshop and do video teaching people. Any question?
He gardens in his backyard.
Yep, that guy.
What?
Yes, on his video on neighborhood. So.
Yeah. Is it real? Is it a real deal?
Yeah. I think so.
And one way he talked about do market research. It's easy during summertime. Go to the farmer market, take picture at the beginning, very early, and later on close to market close time, just go back and take picture again, and you know what crops go well. It's easy.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So, I guess I'm assuming that you lived in the city before you started farming.
No.
Can you talk about moving to a small town and how that was?
So let me just put this out there real quick. I know some people are trying to leave. If you guys could just help me out by filling out the post survey, for me to gauge if you guys learned anything from my presentation and how I can improve the presentation. So yeah, please do that. You just leave it there. I'll come pick it up. Other than that, you guys can continue.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks for coming.
I gave you my card, so if you have questions or you want to talk about flowers or you want to come and visit, I'm totally do it. Okay, I'd love it.